Education is central to being a change agent. When married with critical thinking, it becomes a tool for national transformation. Those were the words of human rights activist Femi Falana back in 2022, words that still resonate strongly in today's Nigeria, adding to the ongoing conversation about how education can drive real national development. Welcome to Edu Dialogue on Voice of the People Television, your weekly spotlight on the power of education, innovation, and informed conversation shaping Nigeria's education landscape and inspiring the leaders and thinkers of tomorrow. I'm Matthew Ogunswada, and it's great to have you join us. Today on the program, we will be looking at important conversations centered around academic development and leadership. But first, let's begin with our first conversation. The federal government has reaffirmed that mathematics remains a compulsory subject for all students writing their O-level examination. This clarification comes after an earlier announcement suggested that students in the arts and humanities might no longer need a credit pass in mathematics for tertiary admissions, a statement that sparked widespread debate among educators and parents. In a follow-up release, the ministry spokesperson, Boriowo Folashade, explained that while tertiary institutions may now admit candidates into certain programs without demanding a credit in maths or English, every student is still required to register and sit for both subjects in their O-level examination. She said that adjustments affect only admission criteria, while noting that not the requirement, emphasizing that English and mathematics remain vital tools for communication, reasoning, and lifelong learning. The ministry further urged Nigerians to rely on official communication channels for verified policy information, noting that the reform aligns with the government's efforts to promote equitable access and human capital development. Now, joining me to discuss this is Professor Temitope Jayola, a professor of mathematics at the Obafemi Awolowo University, and the current occupier of Pastor Enoch Adeboye Professorial Chair of Mathematics at the University of Lagos. I also have with me Olayinka Arimoro, who is a PhD student in biostatistics at the University of Calgary and the founder, Predicate STEM Foundation. Prof, good afternoon, sir, and thank you so much for joining me on the program.
Good afternoon, Matthew. Thank you so much.
All right, so let's begin with the policy clarity regarding this conversation. How do you interpret the government's clarification that mathematics remain compulsory? Do you think that this was a necessary move to prevent confusion among schools and students?
Yes, it was a very good. It was very good that the Ministry of Education came up to clarify things, because a lot of people had misconceptions about the policy. Many people thought probably the government was saying that art and students of the art and humanities need not take mathematics at all, but that wasn't it. A lot of people misconstrued what the Minister of Education was saying. So I think the clarification is very much in place.
So when the earlier statement suggested that maths might not be required for art students, many teachers, parents, and students, of course, expressed concern. From your perspective as an educationist and a professor of mathematics, what does that reveal about the sensitivity of education policies in Nigeria?
Of course, you and I know that our parents who had education up to even secondary school level, even for those that did not even attend tertiary institution, they all know the importance of mathematics, not only in academics, but in life itself. Their parents, they've gone through life, so we all know the importance. So when that particular policy came up, and a lot of people got concerned, and it was a very sensitive thing, because people knew the importance of mathematics in everyday living, even in the home. As a parent, send your children out to do things for you. But mathematics is not just about numbers. No, it's all about logical reasoning. Mathematics makes you to be very sharp, to be smart in thinking, to be able to solve problems, to solve issues. It makes you to be intuitive, to be able to take initiatives yourself, to be able to plan your life. Every parent expect their ward or children to be able to plan their life on their own, to be able to cope with their own. Mathematics teaches you to be independent to a large extent. So I think that was why a lot of parents were jittery about the policy initially.
Okay, talking about the relevance of mathematics, Prof, I want you to please clarify, why is mathematics considered as a foundational subject, even for students in disciplines like literature, mass communication, law? And how does it even contribute to general reasoning and problem-solving skills? Talking about logic, which you mentioned earlier.
All right. Like I said earlier on, mathematics trains the mind logically, systematically, and critically. And that is why when you are doing maths, you require to do deep thinking. In fact, nowadays that we talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all the rest, it's all about deep thinking. Mathematics helps you to be able to think deeply. So for those who are in literature, mass communication, mathematics helps them for precision in thought, clarity of reasoning, and discipline problem solving. One of the problems in the other world, in the real world, to solve them mathematically, you have to put them in form of what we call model. You have to model them. So when you model them, then you can now solve them. After solving, you have to now translate the solution in the mathematical form to real life, to give it interpretation. Mathematics also identifies pattern, analysis of relationship, so that you're able to reach conclusion on evidence rather than on assumption. Mathematics deals with facts and figures.
Thank you so much for that clarification, Prof. Let me come to you, Yinka. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining me on the program.
Good afternoon, Matthew. Thank you for inviting me, and it's been a beautiful time here with Professor Dayola.
Thank you so much for speaking to us live from Canada. All right, so let's talk about the impact on students' mindsets. Some critics said that removing mathematics as a key requirement could encourage academic complacency. Do you think making maths compulsory keeps student discipline, or does it create unnecessary pressure for students, especially those that have the fear of mathematics?
Honestly, I want to reiterate some of the points of Prof in this discussion so far. Mathematics is not just about the formulas, or it's about logical thinking. It's about critical thinking. It's about how to take a big problem and systematically break down. So I think what mathematics will do for students, regardless of, the field of endeavor you hope to pursue, it's that mental discipline that comes with it. So removing mathematics, it's a no-no for me, because it will just make it just feels like students are probably those in the art and humanities are not so comfortable with it. And so removing it just makes them feel like, oh, I'm in my comfort zone. But what mathematics will do to you is to give you that mental discipline, that, logical thinking, critical thinking, that how can you navigate different, life scenarios, just as a journalist that you are. During election period, for example, you get election data. Mathematics is in everyday living. So the question is not about whether to remove mathematics, it's what do our students need to succeed at mathematics? Is it the way we teach it? Is it the resources available? These are some of the discussion that we need to start having, even from the top echelon to the grassroots.
Okay, so talking about the teaching approach, which you of course mentioned now, many students see mathematics as a fear subject, especially those of us in art and humanities. So what practical teaching strategies can make it more engaging, especially those who are naturally inclined towards the art or social sciences?
I think it relates to practicability, showing students that mathematics is practicable even in your own field of endeavor. All right. I remember that for many years I taught mathematics at different levels, even further mathematics. And every time I come to a new class, just by the side of the board, I write something like, think outside the box. All right. So it's not just about what I'm teaching you. It's about, think about how you can connect geometry to, for example, somebody in the arts and theater room, how to arrange maybe their scenes and things like that. So if students can find a point to connect what they are learning to everyday living, I think that's where probably the gap is. And again, it comes from, conscious effort, ongoing effort, intentional effort with professional teacher development, like helping teachers to understand that there has to be a connect. I think that way people will appreciate it, that, okay, now I can see the point of mathematics in, journalism, mathematics in law, how to analyze court cases. Even Prof mentioned then that mathematics in AI, the large language models, and all of these important things that we use for everyday living. So again, my point is that for students to be able to take up the fear, one of the teachers method we must inculcate is that link, that connect between mathematics and everyday living.
So talking about the link between mathematics and everyday living, and talking about curriculum and assessment, do you think that the current secondary school curriculum and teaching style are adequately preparing students to handle maths at SSC level? And what specific reform would you even recommend for teaching and teachers in Nigeria?
Again, it comes to first, I have this ideology that you can't give what you don't have. You can't draw from an empty well, right? So first of all, at the core of this whole mathematics discussion is the teacher involved, all right? When we start discussing around things like teachers' welfare, teachers' salary, how encouraged are teachers properly trained before they come to teach students? Some of these conversations need to be held before we start talking about, the point of mathematics and, they connect to everyday living, the curriculum. Again, I think that there needs to be a part in the curriculum, not where we just teach abstract mathematics. Oh, this is logarithms, or this is geometry or algebra, but how we can actually inculcate everyday, probably more practical project to say, okay, now you've learned. I remember one time we learned during statistics, we learned counting or something like that, and I believe my teacher then asked us to go to a bus stop and kind of count the number of cars that come in, and then summarize it using the mean, median, mode, and all of those statistical concepts and things like that. So that way we could connect to it. So I think in the curriculum, it's not just putting the abstract concept there, but finding a way to tie it to everyday living, just like I said earlier. And again, it really boils down to the teachers. And I'm speaking again maybe from the pain point of the teachers, because I've also been in that space where teachers are underpaid. There is no motivation to teach. So teachers just see it as coming to do, a service. So it must go beyond that. And that way, when students read that, see that these teachers really are interested in their own well-being, probably that will be a beginning point to start, the love for mathematics.
Thank you so much, Olayinka. Let me come back to you, Prof. How do you think parents and school administrators can help students overcome the fear of mathematics and build a stronger foundation from even the primary school level to the junior secondary school level, to the senior secondary school level, and even to the university level? Because we see even students struggling with maths in the universities.
All right, thank you. Yes, for parents and teachers, they have a lot of roles to play in the development of their wards and children.
Please go ahead, sir.
Students in mathematics. Mathematics is poor in it, is going to affect it. It's like a building. Can you hear me?
Please go ahead, sir. We can hear you clearly.
All right. So it's like a building. Okay, all right. So it's like a building. The moment the foundation is faulty, it's just a matter of time. The building will collapse. So that is actually the main problem we have. Many students have very poor foundation. So for students to be good in maths, they must be well taught from their nursery to primary, especially the primary school level. For the nursery school, what they do mostly is just counting of numbers. They get acquainted with numbers. But the moment they enter into the primary school, then they begin operation, addition, subtraction, and okay. So parents have a lot to do. Many children don't even have access to textbooks, and that is why our government comes in. I mean, to a large extent, primary school education, the government should be able to give sponsorship to students, provide textbooks, basic textbooks, especially in mathematics. But you see a lot of students without textbook. And mathematics is a subject that is not just about what you are taught in class. When you get home, you have to do a lot of exercises, practice questions on your own. So when the student does not have the textbook, how will the student be able to practice? And students also, on their part, they have their own duty, responsibility. You must learn to solve problems in mathematics. Like I always say, solve at least one problem every day. Like we say, plant one tree every day. So those are the things. And parents Yes, a lot of parents do that. My own father, in fact, he took time to even teach me in my primary school to some level. It was when I got to secondary school, after GS1, GS2, he had to get me someone to put me through things. So parents have a lot of role and responsibility to play in this light.
In overcoming the fear of mathematics.
Yeah,
So,
and the teachers also, that's why we always tell our teachers, I mean, you don't come to class and start telling students that mathematics is difficult. I mean, this is something that they already fear. So why saying it's difficult? You see some teachers, even lecturers in the university. I mean, if it became at a point, students started putting stigma on mathematics teachers. They were seeing some of us as sadists, wicked set of people. No, dress well when you go to lecture room. Dress like a human being. Yes, we know math is rigorous, but but don't translate the difficulty to students. So, but when you appear in class in a shabby manner, so they just think you are from the other side of the world. They will say, these people, they are not ordinary people. You come to class, you don't even see hello student, no smile on your face, nothing. As a teacher,
just to solve questions,
so psychologically, you have to prepare the minds of students. All these things affect students.
Thank you so much in overcoming the fear of mathematics. So how do you now think this reaffirmation will help shape students' attitude towards mathematics and influence Nigeria's long-term vision for education and human capital development?
Yes. If we need a long-time impact, okay? So if the teachers are well-trained, and just like he said, if they are well-paid, I mean, you can imagine teachers going on strike. Well, if I can't even recall the last time the secondary school teachers ever went on strike, NUT. They don't bother going on strike again because it has become just a waste of time. Because government will never leave. You can imagine. Lecturers, professors have to be going on strike.
Prof, ASU recently called off the 2-week warning strike.
They just did that. But the question is, how do you allow professors to go on? Professors are talking to you. So they have to go on strike, embark on industrial action before you as a government think of doing the right thing. It shouldn't be so. It's not so in other climes. I'm very sure he can confirm that for you. Education is not taken lightly in other countries. But here, in our own part of the world, no. So it's quite unfortunate. So if the government can play its own role, play its own part very well. I remember in our own days, there was a time in which, because teachers were not well paid, they were not so much dedicated to work. So before you knew it, many of us had to be going for what we call extramural classes. In fact, we had a lot of what we call continuing education center all around. You will hear something sec, verb sec, d sec, and it's the same teachers that come to these places to come and teach us. Why? They have to devise a means of making extra money. If the government can take care of the welfare of teachers, equip the schools. Most of our public schools are down currently. They do not have the required facilities. You need good facilities to be able to impact knowledge, to teach students. With the current technology, we are not using them. And the students, they need it to impact knowledge better.
All right. Yinka, you want to chime in because I've been hearing you wanting to give some contribution there. But I want to marry your response. I want to marry your response to English because now the federal government has now said that both English and math is required and not only mathematics. Earlier, they had said that mathematics should be scrapped for arts and humanities. But now they are saying that even if it is scrapped, you must do it as part of examination. So I want to marry your response with English for education and human capital development in Nigeria and globally.
Again, I think that it's boys, and I really appreciate Prof talking about some of these very salient issues that usually go missing in some very important discussions. Whether English, whether mathematics, whether literature in English, it doesn't matter. What matters is that they are human beings that wake up every day, dedicate their time to impact knowledge. I am a very big advocate of properly paying teachers. When we talk about long-term development, one of at the core of it is education, not just academics. And the government needs to be intentional with this. So for example, the UNESCO, I don't know if I'm getting that, whether UNESCO or UN, but the UNESCO budgeting for education should be between 15 to 20%, I believe. But right now, we are still doing between 5 to 7%. We have classes where, for example, a math or even an English teacher is teaching a class of 60 plus people, for God's sake. You know, how can you get to everybody? How can you touch everybody? And then we are bringing up some models in education and saying things like student-centered learning. For us to achieve student-centered learning, we need smaller classes, we need better resources. These are all things that the government needs to critically look into. Again, for long-time national, international development, you know, especially for our country, Nigeria, it is something that the government needs to look into. And that's why I was just nodding my head and just, you know, kind of agreeing to all of Prof said. And of course, because they are at the forefront of it. So, for example, the ASU strike, for example, it's probably has thwarted a lot of things in terms of the curriculum. And then you see that whether math, English, or whatever, people just come in and then rush the concept that needs to be taught, that needs to be taken time to teach, and things like that. So yes, I totally agree that the government has a huge role to play in this. And much more important, at the core of this triangle is the teacher. All right, that the teacher has a huge role to play in that, and teachers' welfare is something that is paramount.
Okay, talking about teacher welfare and of course the government, which you have mentioned, what role do you think NGO play in ensuring that sustainable development goals are being achieved and actualized in Nigeria?
Thank you so much for that question, and I really appreciate that, because as someone who started an NGO some few years ago, it's interesting because many years after I started it and I was really into it, I was told myself, and I'm like, I don't think I should have started an NGO, because even it looks like the government is frustrating the efforts of the NGO. You know, you have to file this, you have to do this, you have to do all of this, you know, bureaucratic processes to able to even function. But the role of NGOs is very, very critical, because there are some things that the school system currently cannot entirely fulfill. So the NGO come to play those parts, you know, in terms of literacy, in terms of numeracy, in terms of, you know, achieving the SDG 4, for example, saying education for all. Different NGOs pick several sub-themes of this bigger goal, and, you know, helping to drive that. But the government needs to support the NGOs in terms of access to funding. For example, for the past 7 years of my NGO, Education Foundation, it has been solely funded by good donors and largely from my own pocket. There are no available funding for NGOs to apply for. Some days ago, as a religious organization here in Calgary, in Canada, we saw an opportunity from the government of Canada for Black communities, and we put together some proposals to submit. So we need much of that, even as NGOs, where NGOs can access public fund. There is this breakdown of the bureaucratic process involved in even starting an NGO. Again, I can keep talking about this because it's really frustrating sometimes for several NGOs to function, and you see after several years of some NGOs functioning, they just close down. I mean, peace of mind is better than running about to get things fixed, right? And so I think the government, not just in supporting the school system, also supporting the NGOs in terms of, you know, access to open funds and things like that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olayinka, for your contribution on the program.
Thank you.
All right. You're still watching Edu Dialogue on Voice of the People Television. We'll take a quick break now, and when we return, we'll go into our second conversation of the day. Please stay tuned.
In a world where power shifts with every headline.
In a nation full of questions.
In a world filled with noise, the truth needs a voice.
The policies that shapes our world and the economy that determines our future.
Every hour, every day, the grapevine keeps buzzing. And on the bold angle with Jamalina, we dive deeper into stories that shape our world.
Don't forget, our voice matters the most. Let us come together and share our concerns.
The 2564 is coming up on Burning 9, right?
The 2564 Atlantic Tower.
What happens in the hush behind hangar doors?
Who signs the papers that gamble with lives? Which truths were grounded before they even ever had wings? If you've ever buckled a seatbelt at 30,000 feet, if you've ever stared out of that tiny window and wondered who's really in control of the skies, it isn't just flight, it's power, it's politics, it's pressure sealed in steel. We're peeling back the clouds from runway risks to sky-high secrets. We're diving deep where most dare not to look. Aviation Scope, every Sunday at 7 p.m. only on Voice of the People TV. We don't just report, we reveal. We don't just ask, we uncover. Because when it comes to the skies, ignorance is turbulence. Aviation Scope, the sky isn't the limit, it's just the beginning.
Join us as we drive into the world of politics through insightful interviews with prominent political figures, both serving and former governors, ministers, senators, legislators, party chieftains, activists, and analysts. Get first-hand information into the decision-making processes that affect our daily lives. Highly engaging one-hour program that brings political discourse into focus.
I am Chukwuma Okoro.
Political Lens, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. Join us.
Voice of the people, you can hear me now. My name is Patrick Doyle, and I wish that you continue to echo the voices of the people. Big up VOP TV.
My name is Suibifa Dokubo. Please keep watching VOP TV.
Hi, my name is Kwekumali Ikenna Onyekwena, and I am with the Voice of the People TV. Now, if you're looking for the veritable channel for information, politics, robust discussions, you don't need to go far. VOP has you. VOP will always have you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Patrick Diabwa, aka Ibani Chuka, Amayanabo the Eagle King, and you are watching VOP TV. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the program. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo has emphasized the importance of youth inclusiveness and the need for transformational and selfless leadership to drive national development and stability. Speaking in Abeokuta, the former president, represented by the Deputy Director of the Olusegun Obasanjo Leadership Institute, Samuel Daramola, delivered a lecture titled "The Challenges of Youth in a Fractured World." He stressed that the future of any nation depends largely on how well it invests in its young people. He appealed to leaders at all levels to commit to policies that promote youth development, adding that the youthful stage is often characterized by vitality, idealism, hope, expectation, dreams, and a sense of adventure. The former president also reiterated the need for value-based leadership and mentorship, noting that empowering the youth is key to achieving sustainable peace and progress in Nigeria. And I still have with me seasoned educationists to help us make sense of this discussion. Let me start with you, Prof. How do you interpret former President Olusegun Obasanjo's call for youth inclusiveness and transformational leadership in the context of Nigeria's education system?
By Chief Obasanjo,
yes, sir.
That youths must be included in the leadership system of the country. But there are some challenges that our youths are currently facing. The problem is our current leadership system, we are in a democracy, is highly political. And not just being political, is money driven. As a result of that, you do not really get the genuine youths, the sincere ones that are ready to serve the country with the whole of their heart. They don't usually have the opportunity of entering into the leadership system. Like you and I know that our political system is more of how much you have, how much you can give, how much you can put on the table. Even few of the youth, the young ones that you find in the system nowadays in various political parties, they are majorly sons, they are children, the children of the politicians. Hardly do you see someone who is not the son or daughter of someone having the opportunity to join political parties or become a governor, for instance, or even contest. So that is the challenge. The political system is a big challenge for a lot of our youth. We have wonderful youths who are brilliant. I mean, some of them are abroad. They are doing well in the UK, in the US, in Canada. But here, the system is too much money driven.
All right, so would you say that our education system is adequately preparing young people to take on leadership and nation building? And what are the biggest gaps you see between education and leadership empowerment among Nigerian youth today? And how can it be addressed?
Yes, to a large extent, our educational system has been contributing to the development of youth towards leadership. For example, in the university system here, you have what we call the student union. Even before getting to the student union level, at departmental level, we have association, students association in various departments. So, and they have executives. So from there, they learn leadership. Okay, in the university, students take courses that are institution based. These are courses that cut across various areas and that teach leadership. We have them, and but for instance, in the student union, some of them have challenges. The issue, the same corruption in the political system also seem to be running through such, because we've seen cases whereby the university has had to ban the student union for one reason or the other because their executive get engaged in financial malpractices. So academically, we do the teaching, but nevertheless, there is still a gap between what we call the town and the gown. Okay, where the most important thing is, even when these students come out of the university, to be able to fit into leadership in the society becomes a very big challenge for them because of what I said earlier on.
So what can be done, sir? What can be done? What can be done, or what should be prioritized or put better?
Our political system have to be better positioned. They must be run by ideology, not with money. Today, if you begin to mention the political parties in Nigeria and you begin to ask, what is the ideology? In the US, for instance, I mean, when you talk of the Democrats and the other one, you can always talk about the ideology that drives them. But here, there is no ideology, and that is why politicians cross from one political party to the other. The only thing they are interested in is power. So we need there is a lot of restructuring, political restructuring that we need to do as a nation. Our political parties must not be money driven; they should be idea driven.
And so, for the youth,
of course, for the youths, in joining political party, they should be motivated by ideology, not money. It should be ideology, not money. But the government has a lot of role to play.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much. Let me come to you, Yinka, even as we wrap up the conversation. What specific reform or policy would you recommend to make education a true driver of national transformation? And how can individuals, NGOs, and of course organizations prioritize mentorship and value-based education to help bridge the gap between academic learning and real-world leadership?
So thank you so much again for that question. And I'll pick on the point of mentorship. I believe that we rise on the shoulders of others. So education systems, NGOs like the one I lead, some of the things we do is provide templates to make students understand that education is a worthy adventure to embark on. You know, starting out an NGO, I began to understand that education is actually a weapon for national change. And so some initiatives, for example, things that students can do, we can begin to, establish student-led initiatives. We can begin to set up, innovative hubs. We need to encourage creativity. We should not shut down creativity, and we should, bring up initiatives, especially in low-income communities where access to education is limited, bringing up events such like some of the ones that we lead, like spelling bee competitions, quiz competitions, things that would encourage students, in this world of social vices and all of that, to encourage students that there is there is education is something you can embark on. We teachers as well need to begin to set up ourselves as models. So it will not be a case of do as I say, not do what I do. So when teachers themselves become models of what they preach, then it makes sense more to the students. So I think it's going to be a joint effort of not just the government, the individual roles, the teachers, the school system, and even many of us who have NGOs, all over the country, to let us know that to change the world, we don't have to do big things. We can do little things in very powerful way. Like some of the work we're doing in remote areas in Ogun State, just bringing things like spelling bee up to make students see that, we can engage in scholarship and, to encourage students that education is something that you can look forward to, that can change your life. You don't have to, stay in the status quo and things like that. And of course, like I said earlier, for many of the NGOs, we need to get access to fundings, donation from people. And with this, I believe that education would change lives. It's really important. It's really important that we invest in education. Thank you.
It's very, very important that we invest in education. I think I will take the quote from Nelson Mandela that says that education is the most powerful weapon which we can use to change the world. Founder, Predicate STEM Foundation, Olayinka Rimoro, thank you so much for joining me on Edu Dialogue.
Thank you so much for having me.
Professor of Mathematics, Obafemi Awolowo University, Professor Temitope Jayola, thank you so much for joining me on the program.
Thank you so much, Matthew. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much. We look forward to having you some other time. You're still watching Edu Dialogue on Voice of the People Television. We'll take another quick break now, and when we return, we'll bring you top stories from Nigeria's education sector. Please stay tuned.
We encourage you to click on the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are Voice of the People TV. Also follow us on all our social media platforms. We are at VOP TV Live. Visit our website www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news. Also watch us live on SLTV channel 264. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television.
Ready for the extraordinary? Something big is happening on your screen. Introducing VOP TV, now streaming on SLTV channel 264. From breaking news to captivating conversations, news analysis, giving you all sides to the story. We bring in-depth discussions on the issues that matter, from politics to sports, entertainment, and lifestyle. VOP TV on SLTV channel 264. Join us as we redefine what television means to you. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV. Now you have more than a voice.
Years ago, we lit the spark. Today, we are blazing the trail for others to follow. VOP Media is 3 years of breaking boundaries. 3 years of being that bold voice that echoes the thoughts of the people. 3 years of telling stories that matter.
We have experienced complete breakdown in democratic governance.
We are not just a brand, we are a movement, giving voice to the voiceless.
We go to bed empty hunger.
To every viewer, every voice, and everyone that has made us who we are, we say thank you. VOP Media, 3 years and still counting.
VOP TV. Now you have more than a voice.
On Edu Dialogue, we bring you fresh ideas and conversations shaping the future of learning in Nigeria and beyond.
Hey everyone, this is Desmond Elliott hanging out at Go Get Face of Africa. I'm saying, keep watching, don't change the dial. This is VOP TV. Watima, bro.
Glad to have you back on the program. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has suspended its 2-week warning strike. ASU President Professor Chris Piuna announced this at a press briefing in Abuja after a National Executive Council meeting. He said the decision followed renewed talks with the federal government on the 2009 FGN-ASU agreement and other unresolved issues. ASU noted that the suspension was to acknowledge the effort of students, parents, and the Nigeria Labour Congress while discussions with government continue on salary arrears without deduction and improved funding for public universities. The Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NEL Fund, has announced the official opening of its student loan application portal for the 2025-2026 academic session. In a statement by its Director of Strategic Communications, Oseyemi Oluwatuyi, the agency said the application window will run from October 23, 2025 to January 31, 2026. NEL Fund advised fresh students to apply using their admission number or JAMB registration number in place of a matriculation number. The agency also appealed to tertiary institutions to show understanding with registration and fee payment deadline for students awaiting loan disbursement and to consider temporary registration for applicants whose loans are still being processed. And to wrap up the news, let's tell you that the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has inaugurated the Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu Library Complex at the Lagos State University, Ojo. Speaking at the unveiling, the governor described the facility as a symbol of the state's commitment to education, knowledge, and innovation, while noting that the library represents the transformative power of learning and the dreams of future generations. Sanwo-Olu explained that the complex is equipped with digital research facilities, reading lounge, innovation labs, and extensive archives, bridging the gap between heritage and technology. He also acknowledged former governors Babatunde Fashola and Akinwumi Ambode for their contribution to LASU's growth, adding that his administration has invested heavily in completing the project and other educational initiatives across the state. And that's it on today's edition of Edu Dialogue on Voice of the People Television. We hope that today's conversation has inspired you to see education not just as a pathway to personal development, but as a tool to transforming our communities and the nation. For more updates and engaging conversation, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. On YouTube, we are Voice of the People TV. You can also follow us across all other social media platforms. We are as VOP TV Live. If you witness news happening near you, we'd love to hear from you. So share your eyewitness reports, event coverage requests, photos or videos with us on WhatsApp via 0814-606-4057. You can also reach our newsroom directly via email at news@vop.ng. I'm Matthew Ogunswada saying thank you for watching. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing in the power of education.